In this tutorial we're going to have a look at how to make some plastics for the main area of the gun. Now I'm going to start off by just taking out these overlay colours and layers out of the metals, and I'm just going to put them up the top here so that some of the colour and interest of these layers are going to go onto our plastic as well. I'll create a new folder. I'm going to call it plastic. And I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to bung that in my plastic layer. I'm going to call him base. Right, I've chosen two greys here. I think one's about 75 and maybe an 80 or 90. I'm going to just filter render clouds. And I'm also going to put difference clouds on a couple of times as well. So filter, render difference clouds. I don't really know what the technical term what it's doing. I think it's sort of, I don't know, sort of adds more detail into your clouds. Makes it look slightly watery. But anyway, that's basically just going to add more interest into the base layer. I'm then going to just add noise at around 6 and Gaussian monochronic, and then after that I'm just going to go into my adjustments, brightness and contrast. I'm just going to take the contrast right down, maybe to about -60. Look, -70. Yeah, no, go -60 because it's quite a pity. And I'm going to just take the brightness down to about -10 as well. You don't want to do it too dark, because then the dodge and burn tools which we're going to use aren't going to work so well. They won't really come up, but we can brighten it up and darken it later as we go along. Right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to select a couple of small areas that we're going to work on. So we've got this main trigger area, back of the handle, front of the handle there, and I think that little section there as well. Let's get rid of these, holding down control and dragging the marquee tool around. It'll take over a little bit too much. Little section there as well. Good one. Right, I'm then going to go layer mask and hide all. No, I'm not. Oh, found the wrong layer. Got to get my base plastic. That was right. So layer mask, hide all. That is basically going to hide everything. It puts on an alpha onto the layer, which basically shows and hides the colour of the layer. So I don't know, a lot of people don't like to rub stuff out on their textures and things. They would rather use masks to get rid of it and to show things, so that it's always there. In case there's problems, they can always go back to it. But I basically, using this selection, I've just filled in, you can see just here, that's what it's like originally, all black, and I fill it in with white, and it shows everything on that layer. Basically what we're going to do is do exactly what we've done before on the rest of the gun, using dodge and burn tools just to do all the highlights and lowlights. I'm just going to bung a sharp on this, see what it looks like. Oh. I don't want to go too over the top with the sharpen, see. Alright, so I'm going to get my burn tool out, put it on around 5, and as we've done before, we want sort of, actually I'm going to make a copy of that just to make sure we're not ruining our original layer, so we can always use it if we make errors. So I'm just going to darken up the back of the gun a touch. And then I'm going to use the dodge tool on around 5 as well, just to bring a little bit of colour to the front. Not too much mind. Alright. So we're just going to start off by doing some of the darker areas, I guess. I'm going to get the burn tool out, put it on exposure about 10. And just, what I am going to do is just select this main portion of the gun. Use my selection layer, which we made previously. I'm going to try and deselect all this area here which you don't want to work on. So again, holding down the control key. Like so. So burn. So I'm also going to get rid of all of this along the top, which we also don't want to work on. And just start going in and darkening some areas up. I mean, a lot of this area here isn't actually going to be seen because the player's hand will be over it. Right. Don't really know where to start. I'm not doing very well on this one. Right, I know this bit's going to be nice and dark. Put it up to 16, chug that in. Make a second selection here. I'll put my exposure down to a bit lower. Put a slightly different shade of darkness. Get my dodge tool. I've selected the inverse. Doesn't want to seem to dodge very much. Let's go with my brushes. I'll put my scattering on again, and as we were doing with the other tutorials, just to add to the interest. To be honest, I haven't done that much plastic texturing, so this is kind of something that I've only just sort of been working out this last hour or so, and I'm sure there's a lot better ways to do it, but I don't know it right now. So I'm just going over all my sort of sharpest edges. Way along here. So I'm just holding down shift there to do a straight line of shading. And all these little areas that I'm doing the shading on are the areas, the sort of corners, so to speak, and here as well. So what we're basically doing is painting on the specular, the shininess of the material, which is one of the things in the texture that actually make your material feel like whatever you're texturing. So plastic is relatively shiny, so you want to have quite strong specular highlights on. You need to find a clock picture. As you can see, it's quite shiny. Don't want to go too over the top of the shininess, don't think. I think, or what I'm thinking is it probably won't be too shiny, because you don't want to be running about trying to camouflage yourself with a shiny gun, because everyone's going to see you, so sort of trying to make a bit of a compromise. Just along this line here, there's a sort of a slight curve, so I'm going to thicken up the brush a bit. I'm going to texture that curve right along there. Also just going to do a slight highlight around the edge here, and around here as well. This is where the curve of the sort of clip will be coming up, or the back of the handle and front of the handle. The problem is with doing this, what I'm doing is very likely to end up with some pretty strong texture seams. So I do the best I can getting rid of them now. So I'm basically doing one pass from top to bottom once with exposure 50 along here and along here, and I know they connect up, so I'm hoping they won't come out too bad and be too obvious. This is also slightly curved along here. To make it seem, if something's more shiny, you're going to have very, very strong white lines like we've got on our metals here. But on the plastics here, I'm using larger brushes, which are going to, which basically means that the specular won't be so strong. You can see the fall off is larger because it's a larger brush. It's a soft brush. So basically, if we go along, it fades over a larger distance than if it's a smaller brush, so it doesn't look so strong. See, I don't think explain that overly well, but I think it will do. Alright. I'm going to just start working around this little section. What I'm going to do is just select all of this. Like so. And I want the light coming in from this way, I do believe. Yeah. So going to be on this inside area here on the left, where it's going to be light, and I'm going to take my burn tool, and this area here is going to be dark, like so. I'm then going to Control Shift I and select the inverse, so I'm colouring in outside of this selection. Going to go to my dodge tool again, put exposure right up. I just want to have a slightly stronger highlight around the edge here, where the flat area of the gun meets with this little area that's curving inwards, like so. And that is really just emphasises the curviness of this. I'm actually going to go in and just do a little more. Control Shift I again. I'm just going to make a slightly brighter section there. Really pinpoint where the light is hitting. Control Shift I again. Not so, bit more highlight around this side, but not so strong as it is on the front there. Like so. Guide. Also going to want to highlight this section here. But again, don't want to go do it too strongly. My little test go I had a little while ago, I did it a bit too strongly and it came out a bit funny. I wasn't happy with it. I just want to burn underneath as well. There we go. I think that's quite a few of the main highlights done. File, save as. Save them under Glock 2. Yes, please. Okay. See how he looks like on the model. Okay, let's have a look where we've got the. So you can see along here is where we've got the texture join that I was saying about. You can see there's quite a strong contrast between this section and this section, also along the front here. Even though we did try to fix it, obviously it didn't work very well. This is, I'm not 100% sure if there's much point of fixing it, considering the hand is going to be over it, but you can have a look into that. Not really looking too bad. What I'm going to do now is start working onto the back of this grip section, and what we've got here is, let me find my references, we've got this sort of up and downy grip, jibber jabber dots and stuff. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First of all, we're going to get our guide up, make a selection. Around here. Just the size a little bit, don't want it too big. What we're going to do is make a copy of this area. So I'm going to Control V, Control C, Control V, sorry. And what we're going to do is we're going to bevel and emboss this. We're going to bevel it inwards. I want chisel hard, inwards. Depth we want to put, size we want to put down quite a lot. Like so. Put the light coming in from up the top here, and we want it going downwards, like so. Put the pixel on 1. Right, next I'm going to do Control U, which gives us a brightness button. I'm just going to put the lightness down a little touch. Okay. Can also play with the opacity a touch as well. In fact, let me go back into that. Just want to darken up the black. Not coming out very dark at all. I'll have a little fiddle about with these. These are the opacities of the highlights. Next thing we want to do is add a new layer. And I'm just going to create a little square. I'm going to hold down Shift just to make it into a square, perfect square rather than a rectangle. And I'm just going to again copy and paste from the bottom layer there. Didn't really need that new layer. I was going to fill it in with colour. Doesn't really matter. It's going to darken it up a little bit so I can actually see it. Right, now what we want to do is select it, so we've got the marching ants going around it. Hold down Alt and Shift to copy it, and to also make sure it moves along horizontally rather than up or down any pixels. Just going to centre that the best I can. Okay, and then I'm going to start making the same little squares down, again holding down Shift and copying it all the way down to the bottom. Be a bit quicker. Okay. And we're just going to copy, we're just going to bevel these little guys as well. So bevel and emboss, chisel hard. Size, how I feel about the size. That's quite nice. Again, have a feel about the opacities and things. You want it kind of matching the highlights that you've done already on the other parts of the gun. So that will about do. And then you just want to put these on overlay, I believe. Sort of there we go. So I've put it on overlay, and I'm just taking down the fill. The fill basically takes out the colour rather than the layer blending option as well. Let me see. So if I take down the opacity, you see that the actual colour itself reduces and the whole thing starts to disappear, as you can see. If we take down the fill, the colour goes, but it actually leaves the sort of layer style, so it leaves a bevel and emboss there. So I'm just taking that down a little bit, just to keep the bevel and emboss there, but then to blend it in slightly better with the colour we've already got there. I'm just going to go in and just do some highlights as well down this trigger section. Trigger section down the back of the grip there, that's better. Small highlight there. We also want to put a highlight along this section here, which is the this little sticky out bit here. Like so. This layer seems a touch dark for my liking, so I'm going to just Control U. And I'm going to brighten them up a tiny touch. File. Right, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to just select this main square we've got. Control Shift I to select the inverse, and I'm just going to basically whip around quick and put a highlight down this along the edge here, because it looks like it's sort of missing one. And what that should really do is just emphasise the bevel a bit better. It doesn't need to be too big or strong, just enough just to make the darker on the inside where it's been beveled in box look it's darker than it actually is. Like so. We've also got some little stripey dudes, so I'm going to do exactly the same as we did before. But so copy paste, Control U, What happened there? Control C, Control V, Control U, just change the brightness slightly so you can actually see what you're doing. I'm just going to start copying these along. The thing is with an area like this, is that you may well find that you don't actually have enough pixels to put a highlight on it, which is a royal pain in the butts. Get rid of these areas that we don't need. So I'm just going to have to see how we go. I'm going to do the whole bevel and emboss thing again. So we chisel hard in a bevel. Oh, so there's not too much going on with it. Okay, well, what I'm going to try and do is what we've done in the past. I'm just going to make this crazy selection. I'm going to fill it in with a paintbrush. Nice dark black. Or am I? There we go. Sorry, there's one of my layers was above it. There we go. I can make a copy of that layer and fill this one with white. And as we did before, we're just going to move the white along slightly. And I'm just going to chug down the opacity on both of these layers until it fits in a little better. Like so. You want it to try and match this section which we've already done. So we're just going to get rid of that. Not actually very white, is it? There we go. Okay. There you go, so that's the highlights done there. I think we just want to move both of these layers over a touch. Line it up a touch better. I think that's about as good as we're going to get. I just want this to stand out a bit more. I don't think it really stands out too well at the moment. So I'm assuming because it's sort of beveled into the gun, it would be a little touch darker. I'm just going to have a little fiddle about, make it a little bit more interesting. I've darkened it up. I'm just going to put some vague highlights in the top. Right, I think that will do. What have we got here? Right, I'm just going to combine these layers together because it's annoying me, so I'm just going to select them all and I think I want merge layers. So that's all one layer now. I'm just going to call it grip detail. Do another little folder, and I'm just going to basically do what I've done before with the metals, just to add all the little details and things in. Stick a few layers on there. We'll call one speckle, scratch, random, and damage. Oh, one thing that I've nearly forgotten to do. we've got a slightly different plastic here on the grip. So I'm just going to try to think of the best way to actually make this selection. I think I might use the quick mask tool. I'm going to press Q, make sure I've got a nice hard brush, and with the black paint I'm going to paint the selection. I'm going to make sure my flow and opacity here on 100. And holding down shift, I'm just going to basically draw in what I want to select. Cut this whole section in. Just going to press X to change to the white, and I'm just going to just tweak my selection a little bit. Soften up some of these edges. Yeah. Just get some around here. Shrink. Right, I'm going to press Q again. It's basically selected everything but what I've coloured in, so I'm going to Control Shift Y to invert the selection. And I'm just going to copy and paste off of my base layer. I'm going to call that grip. One thing that I do want to do, I want to get rid of a little square down here, and there'll be a little glock symbol. Just going to select my square, hit delete. Let's put this back in position. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just filter, texture, texturize. This basically puts some nice crazy texture on. I believe, I'm not sure if it sort of overlays the texture or it sort of changes, lays your texture out over some sort of crazy textured thing or whatever, but there's a couple of them in there. But I'm going to use sandstone. I think that looks quite a bit like the crazy clock texture that's going on. You know, fiddle about with your scaling things, but we don't want it too big. Relief sort of changes the height of the map, which is using to put the texture on. Right, just going to hit OK. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to blur it slightly with Gaussian blur. I'm going to blur, Gaussian blur on, I don't know, let's put it on about 1.5. Okay, and then I'm just going to put noise on it again. So add noise. And this just adds that little extra variation. So I'll put it on about 6. And last but not least, I'm just going to have a play with the contrast. It's always better to go a little over the top with stuff like this, and then to go back after with your adjustment tools. I think down to about 20 or so. There we go. Right, that looks not very good. Go back a few. You know, I think it looks a little better without adding the blur and the noise. I tried doing it on a full page and it looked quite nice. No, I don't think so. No. I'll leave it like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we want a slight little border all the way around this, and one way of doing it is to select your layer, and then we're just going to make a border selection. So I'm going to go select, modify border. 2 pixels will do, and just hit OK. And you can see now that I've basically got a slight border all the way around my selection, and that is my new selection. And I'm just going to go around with the burn tool, just to all the way around. Like so. Why does that not want to burn? That's the question. Okay, what I'm going to do instead, because for some reason this little area doesn't seem to want to burn, I'm just going to create a new layer and just basically paint that section in with some black. Don't know what's going on there, but it doesn't seem very happy. So that's that selection done. To be honest, it probably was better to go around with a brush in the first place. Just go solid black, and then you can just take down the opacity a little, just so it's not too in your face. Right, and then we're going to select the inverse, Control Shift I, and I'm just going to go around with the dodge tool, just to emphasize. So going back to our base layer that we've been doing our highlights on, I'm just going to go around. I'm trying to rush this a little bit. Don't want you sitting me watching texture all day. What I may try and do is find our little glock symbol from up the top here, which we've already used once. Is it going to be on top slide? Yeah. This is why you should rename your layers. It makes it a lot easier to find them. But there he is. I'm just going to shift and drag him over here. Oh, what? No, I need to copy and paste, that's what I need to do. Bring him over. There you go, just darkened it up a touch. I just need to do a few more highlights really, and then I think that's near enough it for this tutorial really. Just say haven't really textured much plastic in the past, so this is one of my first goes. I'm sure I'm doing a lot of stuff wrong, but I don't know. Tough. That's what I wanted to do. I'm just going to do a curvy section here. I want a bit of a highlight going down. Bush. Blue light going down on this side. There we go. So now that the last job to do is what very same as what we've done on the metal. So we're just going to have a load of layers on screen, and we're just going to go through and add these little areas of interest. So just going to select a couple of areas that we've been working on. So we've got this excuse me, back area here, and also this main area, excluding this. I'm just going to chop this out again. Speckle, white, oh nice speckle brush, dish. Scratches, we want a nice small brush again. Going to put on the old shape dynamics and scattering. I'm going to put the opacities up to 100. Just work on putting a few scratches in the areas that you think would be most affected by scratches. So around here and such. The front of the gun. One area where I forgot to do the highlight on was just here. Just select this. Darkened up just behind, sort of a slight shadow. Might actually strengthen up this little highlight along here, like so. That doesn't look very good. Right, we'll just go back to doing some more little random interesting bits. Back to our white brush. There you go. I'm just going to rush and bung a couple of splotches on because I should do this from the selection that I had a little while ago. Just a few splotches, screen, going to put the opacity down to about 10 or so. Put the fill right down as well. Again, that's just these splotches of interest. And damage, same as we've done before. Get a nice small brush, put on shape dynamics, scattering, and opacity jitter. Set both those set to pen pressure. Just go to our guide layer and just find areas that you think would have taken some damage over the course of use. Nice little scribbles. Don't think you want the highlights on plastics to be, or the damage marks quite so strong as you would with something like a metal, because plastics are all the same sort of colour really, isn't it? Even on the inside it's still going to be black, whereas a metal is paint on the outside and then underneath we've got a nice metal colour. So you don't want to be quite so strong, but just try and find a nice in between. So just going to carry on working on these areas where I feel would have taken damage through the use of the gun. Areas around here. Just basically scraping away at the plastic underneath. I'll put the opacity down a touch so it will work. Try about 70. It's a bit better. I mean, I'm really just doing little squiggly scratches and things. Sure, you people can do a lot better than me. And I hope you're going to spend a bit more time with all of this than me as well. It's like the highlight on the front here. Too much. Anyway, I think you get the picture. We'll have a look at this on the model in a minute. And see where we need to go from there. I think I'll probably do for a minute. File save. Okay, so it looks a little dusty to me, but I hope that a specular map towards the end will sort that out. It's also a little blurry, so to speak, but when we get to the end of our tutorial, and to be honest, probably the next tutorial, we'll just do the sort of finishing touches, hopefully sharpen it up a touch and prepare it for source compiling. Quick render there. Not looking too shabby at all, really. No, that will do. So yeah, as I said, the next tutorial, my little block sign disappeared. Like, the texture will most likely be finished on my end. You know how to do some plastics now. You also know how to do metal, and hopefully you can figure out the rest of the texture yourself. If there are any little details you like, you're free to do whatever you want on the texture. This is just what I've done with mine. Anything that I do over my texture, I'll probably go through and explain in the next tutorial, give you some sort of idea about what I've done. But until then,